little harder, stack those sats, don't stack the dollar.
Right then, now this video is going to be a little bit different from the normal format. It's probably going to be a bit longer, a bit more wordy, and I'm not walking the dog. Oh my gosh, it's falling off. I'm closing up, I'm doing a final sale. Now, since 2019, so we're in 2025 at the minute, for the last 6 years, I've had my own small side hustle business of a independent one-man record label, which sounds very glamorous, record label, but basically a DIY operation. Started it in 2019, and I started off by just releasing my own music, and I did limited edition cassette tapes, runs of between 20 and 50 units. So I started off small, and then I kind of grew and released my friends' music and just people that I knew online, that kind of thing, and built it up from there really. Now at the time in 2019, I had a much higher paid job. It was a lot higher paid, but it was also a lot higher stress. And one of the things that I did with that extra money at the time was start the label. And in 2019, I put in about £10,000 to start it. And it was ticking over nicely. I was searching out for kind of weird and niche music online that I wanted to give a physical format to, because I've always liked, physical music. I've always liked collecting things and vinyl and cassettes and that kind of thing. So I basically hunt out music that I thought deserved a physical release and would ask the artist or the band, I say, can I put this out? I'm going to do 50 cassettes or 100 CDs, and if you allow me to release your music, I'll send you 10 or 15% of the copies for your artist copies as the royalty payment, basically. So it was very DIY, and this kind of niche underground music is always very DIY anyway. And then in 2020 we had the whole lockdown thing, and the job that I had at the time stopped because it was one of the jobs that couldn't carry on during the lockdowns, and I had a lot more extra free time, spare time on my hands, so I pushed the label as much as I could because I had not much else to do. So I thought, well, now's the time. If I'm going to go for it, I'm going to go for it. So 2020, 2021, maybe even into 2022, I really started pushing it, and every penny that I was earning from it, I was putting directly back in and just doing more releases, because at the time I was hoping that I could make a business of it, a full-time job, and I could live off it. That would have been, my dream really, to work for myself and have a profitable business that I can be creative with, and that is my passion project, and that I can make money from and live from. At the same time as doing all this, I was up against constantly increasing production costs, constantly increasing shipping costs, which, as you can imagine, puts customers off. In 2023 or 2022, something like that, any countries in the EU, if they order something from the UK, they then have to pay a customs tax or a custom import tax, this kind of thing, which put a lot of people off as well. I remember one guy emailing me saying that he just bought a CD for 10 quid and he had to pay an €18 customs fee. That was in Germany or somewhere in the EU, which is ridiculous really. So the prices were going up, the production costs were going up, the price for the customer was also going up. So it basically it became a bit of an uphill battle to continue, if you know what I mean. And over the last couple of years, it's got to the point where I'm basically treading water, and the production costs since I started in 2019 have effectively doubled. Shipping charges internationally have effectively doubled, and now we've got so many other things in, like the customs fees, that it's just becoming just even harder to even break even. Now, how I was running it was basically each release would fund the next release or project, and if the project broke even, then great stuff. I would then have enough funds to work on the next one. If it didn't break even, which over the last few years has been more often than not, I would then have to run some kind of sale to basically just gather funds to work on the next project, because you know, it's my passion project. I'm passionate about doing it. I always had an endless list of projects that I wanted to work on, but money became more of an issue and more of a restriction as time went on, because you know, I'm not a multimillionaire, so I can't just endlessly fund my hobby. It needs to be, you know, economically viable. And basically all throughout the years, I haven't been able to take enough money off the top, enough profit off the top, in order to pay myself. And yeah, what I'm trying to say is basically it's got to the point where I'm going to close the doors, basically, because the amount of time and energy and effort that it takes to do a full project, a full release, is a lot. And if I can't pay myself at all, it's not worth it, you know. And the novelty's worn off now as well. I've kind of achieved everything that I wanted to achieve with it. So after 6 years, if your business isn't profitable enough to pay yourself, you've got to kind of call a spade and say, well, it's not working. And at the same time, even if it's an expensive hobby, passion project, now I think my time and my effort and my energy is going to be spent better elsewhere. So I'm going to call it a day. Now the plan is to liquidate as much as I possibly can. I'm going to close the doors, call it a day, but I'm going to start with a big sale. Just going to get rid of a lot of everything that I possibly can for as cheap as well, not as cheap as I can, but you know, quickly. I'm not going to start with like a 20% sale. I'm going to start with a 70% sale. My plan is, instead of putting the money back in and doing another project, I'm just going to put all the money that I'm left with after I've closed down into Bitcoin and hold it there. Now I will break down some costs. I'll give you an example of the last release that I put out. Now the last release was a 250 run of vinyl. Now the 250 vinyl to get printed was £2,140. Along with that, I had to buy 250 inserts, paper inserts for the vinyl sleeve, posters, and I also got the obi strip, which is the little flashy Japanese looking strip on the side. So I had to get 250 of those, and that came to £145. This kind of like specialist packaging for sending out vinyl, so 250 of those is £200. I had to get the designs made by a proper designer, so basically the layouts for the vinyl itself and some social media assets, that kind of thing. That cost £150. And then I also had to upload the music to streaming services, which is only 20 quid. So the total cost for that project came to £2,655. The retail for that was £24. So I was selling each copy for £24. Now that to me is expensive. When I started the label I was selling them for £18, and you would rarely see a vinyl for more than 20. But with costs going up and up and up, I had to push it up. So £24. The price, if you go into a record store now, is mental. You know, it used to be 20 quid, 25 quid max. Now they're upwards of 30, 35, 40 quid for just a single album. You know, I think Taylor Swift's last album was like 40 or high 30s. Not that I bought it, but in the best possible outcome, a complete sellout would be a 2x of my investment. Okay, so it cost approximately 2,655 quid. So it's 2,700 quid, let's say. At best, if I sell out, I make 5,400 gross. Not after all of the fees, the payment processing fees, the website fees. I have to declare it, and I have to pay tax on that and all that stuff as well. At best, 2x max. So I've weighed up the options, and I have the business, which, you know, isn't doing well. And I think somebody with a bit more, you know, business acumen, a bit more, you know, business minded would have closed it down a long time ago. But because it was my passion and my hobby and also my first business, I've probably kept it going for a lot longer than I should have. Yeah, you know, when things are not working, you think probably you know they're not working, but it takes quite a while to actually admit that to yourself and be like, this has failed. You know, this is not working. I'm struggling here to make my vision come to fruition. Now, how does Bitcoin come into this? Well, Bitcoin over the last many years has been consistently giving a 2x a return on investment if you hold it for 2 years. I could literally just put my money into Bitcoin, hold it, sit on it for 2 years, and I'll make the same return on investment that I have been doing, at best, possibly, from this. The amount of time and energy that I put into the label, if I put the money into Bitcoin instead and I literally just hold it there, it's going to free up so much time and energy and creativity that's going to enable me to do other things that I've always wanted to. That might sound a bit la-di-da, but I mean, I started the label to release my own music, so I'm going to have more time to actually create more music and do what I actually love, which is that, and probably other things as well. You know, I mean, this YouTube channel, for one, is turning into a fun, creative hobby for me. That'll do. That's enough waffling from me. Let the liquidation begin. So I started the proceedings with a 60% off everything sale, and I ran that for a few days. I also put posts out on the social media and the mailing list and that kind of thing, basically just saying the time has come, but unfortunately I've got to close. So, you know, thanks for the support over the years, but this is it. If you want to grab something, you know, now's your chance. And I had loads actually of comments and replies and emails and stuff, basically of people saying, you know, thanks for your work over the years, you know, sad to see you close, good luck with whatever you do next, that kind of thing. So quite overwhelming really, because, you know, when your business isn't doing so good, you do often, well I did anyway, often think like, you know, is anybody bothered at all, or is it just me and, you know, a couple of people that, you know, like the posts and buy stuff? So actually really positive, overwhelming response, which I was quite pleased with, to be fair. Then after a couple of days, I increased the sale to 70% off everything. So quite a crazy fire sale, really. CDs that were 10 quid were going for 3. Vinyl that was 20 quid was going for 6. Some of the vinyl, which I'd had on the shelves for years, which was already reduced to 10, was going for 3. So you're basically getting a vinyl record for 3 quid, which was, you know, unheard of, really, to get vinyl for 3 quid. So people were snapping up, which was good. But at this stage, I just wanted to get rid of as much as possible and just get some cash back from that dead stock. Now, after a few days of packing, I weighed all the orders up, you know, did the usual stuff, filled out the customs forms, paid for the postage labels, got them all printed off, stuck them on the packages, that kind of thing, and bagged up as many as I possibly could to fit into my car and take to my local post office. And here's how I got on with that. Alright, the post office is going to absolutely kill me. Oh my gosh, it's falling off. Right, well, I've just caused absolute chaos in the post office there. Dropped half off, and the queue was just getting too much, so I'm going to drop the rest off probably tomorrow. Right, it's day 2 of dropping off parcels at the post office. I've got another full car, so I'm going to go and cause some more chaos at my local village post office. It's taken a while to pack all of these orders, and I've still got more, probably another full carload's worth at home, so it's probably going to take a while to get these out. We will see. I'm closing up. I'm doing a final sale. Oh yeah. So this is just the closing down sale sell-off. So after this, there will be less. I'll be causing less chaos. Right, well, it's day 3, carload 3 of parcels to drop off at the post office. Currently driving to a different post office than my usual one because I got told off last night at mine. Basically rocked up about 8:30 p.m, which is late. They close at 9 and the post office is open until 9, so usually they've taken parcels for me that late. But the guy, I think he was a bit stressed. He was just like, brother, come on, you know, you've dropped loads off today. I was like, oh, no worries, you know, I'll bring it back tomorrow. And then I got told off as well for putting an old plastic tray in his bin outside, which apparently was his personal bin, even though it was next to the public bins and the lid was open. So made a mistake there, but I've basically been pissing him off with the amount of parcels that I've been dropping off. So I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I'm going to a different one today. Right, well, I've dropped one bag off. These little village post offices can't handle much, so I've got rid of one bag. Now I'm driving to another one 2 miles away. And we'll see if we can cause some chaos there. This one is not even a post office. It's a village hall, but it's closed. Well, that's good. So once I'd got all of the retail orders packed and shipped out, I then offered the remaining stock to other DIY labels in the UK and other kind of small distributors, and I did have a few that took me up on my offer there. I then offered the remaining stock to the bands and the artists whose stuff I had left over, and I would say the majority of the artists that I got in contact with said they'd take the rest of their stock, because I was offering it at cost price basically, just to get rid of that stuff. And then with the small amount of vinyl that I did have left, I boxed them back up and I sent them back to the pressing plant. They basically run a recycling service where if you ship them back to them, they will recycle the vinyl, just so you know it's not going to a landfill or anything like that. And when you do that, they will send you a destruction note as well. So there's not that much benefit of of sending them back off to be recycled because you don't actually get paid for it. But I guess it's better than putting them in the bin. And also with the destruction note, I can then put it through as official waste on the tax return. So there is some benefit to it there. Once all of the stock was shifted, I closed down the website and cancelled the subscription there, which was costing £30 a month. I also sold a cassette holder that I was using on Facebook Marketplace for 15 quid. I sold a vinyl backlight that I was using there as well for 20 quid. And that was it really. I'm keeping the digital music online because it's nice to have an archive of the music online that people can listen to, and B, there's also a very small amount of passive income that does come from that. Now it's probably only a few quid a month, but it's worth keeping that running, you know. It's no skin off my back, as they say. But I've also been able to meet some very cool, very lovely, you know, people along the way. And I would say I've got lifelong friends that I've made through the label, through either, you know, just meeting them as a customer or, you know, artists and bands that I've worked with. You know, I'm now extremely good friends with some of the people that I wouldn't have met if I didn't run the label. I also have done some record fairs, which was quite fun, where I managed to actually, you know, step out of this online world into the real world and sell my stuff, you know, at a couple of record fairs, which was fun, but probably the music I was releasing wasn't really typical record fair stuff. You know, I had the majority of people coming around asking if I've got any, you know, secondhand Michael Jackson or Boney M albums, and you know, I just didn't really have that stuff, so they didn't work out, but it was a good experience. I've also managed to play a few shows with one of the artists that I worked with, which was very much fun. You know, ticked off that childhood dream box of going on tour and playing guitar on stage. You know, that was definitely probably the main highlight for me, actually. You know, we ended up doing a world tour, which was most fun. Yeah, I mean, I say world tour. We played London, Leeds, Birmingham, and Glasgow. But I mean, they're still technically in the world, so, you know, still counts. So, final summary. Now, after I sold everything, I bought mailers for sending stuff out, after the postage costs and all that stuff, I was left in the account with £3,147.59p. Now I saved some of that because I'm going to have to pay tax on all of that stuff when the time comes. So I basically rounded it down a little bit to £2,500 to put into the Bitcoin fund. So I've done that. I bought £2,500 worth of Bitcoin from Strike, and for that I got 2,859,381 sats. So 2.8 million sats. So not bad at all. There was a 1% fee on Strike, which I don't mind. That's the best I can find in terms of buying Bitcoin. And another thing I like about Strike is that when I move it over from the exchange to my hardware wallet, which is Bitbox, there's no fees. The link in the description to get a hardware wallet, you get 5% off. Now I was at 0.054 Bitcoin. After the business has been liquidated and I put all the remaining funds into Bitcoin, we've now increased the total Bitcoin holdings to 0.082. So I am now 8% of the way there to the goal of hitting 1 Bitcoin.
Buy a little lower, try a little harder, stack those sats, don't stack the dollar. Buy a little lower, stack the dollar. Don't stack the dollar. Buy a little lower, try a little harder, stack those sats, don't stack the dollar.